everyone, and welcome to this brand new episode of Game Time here on the Game Time channel. We're going to be talking about so much going on. We're recovering from the AFC and NFC championship games. We're getting ready for the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. We've got a little NFL news aside from the playoff stuff, a little basketball news. We're going to get into all of that here today. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by Winston A. Marshall. Winston, our worst fears have come to pass. An NFC East team that is not the Commanders or the Cowboys is in the Super Bowl. God damn it, it's the Eagles again. How are you feeling today?
I mean, this is very reminiscent of when the Giants won the Super Bowl and then came back roughly about half a decade later and played again. And hopefully this time they don't take a second one home. That would be nice. There was so much going on, man. Like, it was a lose-lose for the NFC Championship. Like, I was mad no matter who won. I don't know if I was trying to see it like that, though. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot happening, man, and we'll talk about it. And let alone, I'm happy for Mahomes and the Chiefs, man, but there's some talks about how some of that shit played out, too.
Yeah. Certainly there's going to be there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked and are being asked, rather, actually, from the end of that game into today by some sports reporters, by some analysts, by some critics, by some pundits, just like us on our show, all the way up to the people at ESPN who don't usually like to criticize the NFL or the refs. But certainly you saw a lot of people asking questions about how that game went down between Cincinnati and Kansas City. And you know what? For all the madness of the refs, it still was a damn close game that was decided by just sadly, a mistake there by Joseph Ossai when he pushed Patrick Mahomes out of bounds when they had already gone out of bounds, and that ended up giving Harrison Butker a really easy kick to send them into the Super Bowl. So we're going to get into all of that here on the show today. But first, I want to remind you all, first of all, to please hit a like on this video right off the bat as soon as we start. If you haven't subscribed to the Game Time channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you want to send in support, some of you might be hot under the collar yourselves. Maybe you got some money on the game. Maybe you're fans. Send us some Streamlabs there. I'm going to post it in the chat here and pin it in there for you all to send as well. So, but let's jump into that game. We got to start with the Kansas City, the Cincinnati Bengals game here. Winston, Patrick Mahomes, right near the end there, was missing 3 of his wide receivers to injury. He took off on a third down play, as we mentioned, near midfield, got that first down, but then Bengals defensive end Joseph Ossai pushed him into the bench, injuring his own right leg in the process. If you watch the replay, you can see his leg plant and that knee go backwards, and he fell immediately onto the ground. That tacked on a 15-yard penalty for the Chiefs, and Harrison Butker came in and kicked a 45-yard field goal to send them into the Super Bowl. Mahomes threw for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns, even though he's missing, as I said, his 3 wide receivers throughout the game. They were injured early on in the game, came back in spotty places. Travis Kelce, fighting off of bad back spasms, had 78 yards and a touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 116 yards and a touchdown. Joe Burrow had 270 yards passing, but 2 interceptions. T. Higgins did have 6 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. But in the end, it wasn't enough. The Chiefs pulled Mahomes' magic, and they got the job done. So what is your thoughts overall coming out of this game here about the Chiefs, about the Bengals, about how it all went down?
I mean, congratulations to the Chiefs.
Yes.
I'm not going to say that they didn't play well, and because they did. But I think the thing that I really took away from this game, there was a lot of just uneven calls left and right, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. And it's one of those things where it's like, when you're somebody that is actually rooting for both teams, it makes you start to get mad at the team that is getting these calls while the other one is getting shafted. Like, I genuinely found myself getting a little pissy with the Chiefs kind of walking away from this, because there was a bunch of no calls that were happening to the Bengals. There was a bunch of unnecessary calls that were happening to the Bengals to help the Chiefs out, including even with that Ossai thing, man. Maybe I got to see that play again. But if I remember correctly, homie already had momentum. It's not like he wound up to hit him. He was already 1 foot right there. There wasn't anything stopping that at that point. Versus we have seen people, dude is clearly out for a number of steps and you're still running full fucking speed to knock somebody's block off. So I got to rewatch that play to see, but It's not to say that the Chiefs didn't play exceptionally well. For Patrick Mahomes to have 1 foot, the whole time is great. But I think what scares me about that,
Right.
I really hope that he can get healthy in 2 weeks, because otherwise we already saw what the Eagles will do if somebody's not okay.
Yeah.
If they're not playing at 100%. They really took advantage of San Francisco losing their best player on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And then pretty much the only quarterback worth their salt left on the roster, because then they went and concussed the next one. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that being said, I just thought that top to bottom, because Mahomes was hurt, that the Bengals were a more well-rounded team and had a better shot of taking down the Eagles. I think the Chiefs can do it, but I think it is very much dependent on that ankle, because while the Bengals defense was good, it was not the 49ers and it was not the Eagles. Those are those defenses that will make you pay for your shit. So other than that, man, I mean, like, I think what we got to see is how much that Bengals team is like a team. Like, genuinely, they fought to the bitter end. All of the receivers were looking mad good. I mean, Higgins, Chase, and Boyd were all just absolutely just handling their business that game. But I think what I love seeing about the Chiefs in this, I love seeing Valdez-Scantling really taking that step into like what feels like wide receiver superstardom. Am I going to put him in my top 10? No, but like, he is at that thing where I can fully trust him. You need to take some of the heat off of Kelsey. Cool. He's got you. I also worry about Pacheco. Pacheco got a little injured. You saw him starting to limp a little bit. So like 2 weeks is good. 2 weeks to try and like get some of these injuries out of the way. But I'm very curious how this turns out for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I got to agree with you and let's take a look, because I know there's some KC fans. I already see Sean Brennan in the chat here. Sean, I'm going to be very curious to hear your thoughts about these two plays. Let's take a look at the play that Winston says he wants to take a look at again. And I'm going to keep the sound down because I can't put too much of the sound on this one. You see him breaking out. Oh, sorry. Again, I hit the mute, but it doesn't mute sometimes. All right, so you see him coming out. He points right here. There's Ossai. Now, he puts his hands out to push him. You see that clearly. I think
let's see.
Right there is where
all right. I can
see what I'm saying?
It makes me wonder, though. Go back just a little. I know you're kind of doing it as much of a frame by frame as you can. I'm wondering if he's trying to stop himself or if he's pushing. And let me see here. And if he is, I can admit it.
It just seems to me like he puts his arms out as Mahomes steps out of bounds. They're both out of bounds, both feet out of bounds here.
It's not a good look on the size part.
It's not.
But I think when you consider some of the calls that they weren't making or they were making already, this to me was like kind of fucked. Like it was like you really just gonna do this all game, because there was some really bad PI and like holding calls that the Bengals deserved. There was an egregious roughing the passer play. It was like a good 3 or 4 seconds after Burrow had thrown the ball and a dude came up and pushed the shit out of him to the ground. Nothing. And that would have changed the landscape of shit.
I also think Mahomes, flopped here. Look at him throw himself and the ball and flail his arms out. I mean, like he's been shot. So clearly, and look, I'm not going to fault a player who's trying to get, that's gamesmanship, that's sportsmanship. And I totally respect that. But let's dump out of this and let me show you another one here that I think is fascinating to take a look at. Where did it go? Oh, I had it up here just a second ago. I may have to kind of find it again. But there was a hit here that the Chiefs did on the Bengals that wasn't called earlier in the game. That was also out of bounds.
About the Burrow one I was mentioning earlier?
No, not the Burrow one. There's another one. I don't know. I'll have to find it again and bring it back up here, because there was also a call that was out of bounds that I thought was unfair to see, that the Chiefs hit the Bengals player as he was going out of bounds as well. So that was a little bit right by the goal. It was right by the goal line. Should have put the ball on the 1 yard line. Here we go. Let me share it now again and take a look at this one, Winston. And for you Chiefs fans, especially you, Sean Brennan, who's saying that should be called every time, let's take a look at this play. Here are the Bengals
this
coming down.
I remember.
Bang! He is completely out of bounds.
Way out.
Completely
already being tackled What is happening?
He is
Like, so you know what?
already tackled.
I completely agree. You got to keep
Look
the
at
same
that.
energy.
He is launching himself at Mixon, Winston. That's not a
bullshit.
push. That's a launch.
Bullshit.
That should have been called.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That was nonsense. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, it just takes the fun out of like being excited for the Chiefs out of it for me. I'm sure anybody that is their team, they're like, fuck you, I'm going to the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, good for you. You know, and karma's also a bitch. So I hope that none of that comes back to haunt you. And like, because the refs have been called out for a number of stuff, I hope they don't call you in the Super Bowl to try and make up for something. Because again, I do not want the Eagles to fucking win. I want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. So let's get that very straight here. Let's get that 100. This is not some sort of bias because I like the Bengals bet. I genuinely like them both equally.
Right.
It just seemed just kind of fucked. And like to see that happen, that was my issue. Like, can you, if you can find the Joey Burrow one,
I'm trying really hard.
No, it's okay. I know you are. But that was the one that was egregious to me. Was the no call and the roughing the passer? That shit was nonsense, bro.
Like, he looked right at the referee and was like, what the hell? You know, what the hell?
I'll tell you this right now. If that shit had happened to Tom Brady, do you understand they would have disqualified that player?
Dude, if that had happened to Patrick Mahomes, it would have disqualified that player. Let's take a look. Here it is. Right. Here it is. We saw it from behind. That is three steps.
Ball been gone, bro. Ball been fucking gone.
3 steps before he hits Burrow. Now,
ball
Burrow
been
flops
fucking
it.
Gone.
Yeah, look at this. 1, 2,
ball
3.
Been
bang.
Gone, bro. That's fucking nonsense. That is fucking nonsense. That shit to me is similar to I'm sure we'll talk about LeBron and what happened to him on Friday. That is so egregious for the refs not to call that.
Right.
It's kind of like, especially because there is a ref back there that his sole job is to make sure if something happens with anybody behind the line of scrimmage. Like,
the back judge.
Fuck the pass, bro. There's somebody up there looking at that. Why the fuck aren't you watching to make sure that the quarterback is protected? That's nonsense.
See, Burrow didn't even flop. Burrow rolled over immediately. It was like, what the crap? And he is looking at the back judge who is supposed to make a call like that. Look, the Bengals at this point are backed up on their own field, on their own side of the field. So that could have benefited them to give him some breathing room, 15 yards, roughing the passer, what have you. So yeah, I mean, there were some if you're a level-headed Chiefs fan, you know you got away with some shit in this game. And listen, the Chiefs fans were the first ones who were whining and crying to the NFL when Tom Brady and the Patriots were getting away with murder in those games, when they were losing to Tom Brady and the Patriots in the playoffs. So, it's your turn now. It's your turn now to get the calls and get yelled at. Jordan screamed at refs when Larry Bird and Magic were getting all the calls until Jordan ascended to his level. Oh, and the Pistons too, until Jordan ascended to the level. Then everybody bitched that Jordan was getting the calls. That's the cyclical tone of sports. So you're a Chiefs fan, understand that now you are the person who is going to be analyzed to death, and that the NFL's on your side because they've got pretty boy Patrick Mahomes leading the way here.
Now there's a couple things about this game that I did find funny, and I will say I am a big shit talker, but there is certain lines I won't cross until we've won, because you are bringing a certain amount of karma onto you. Now I will agree with what folks are saying. The Cincinnati mayor maybe should have shut his fucking mouth talking about Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes' daddy. What if you shut the fuck up, bro? Like, what if you don't talk about one of the greatest quarterbacks we have ever seen? He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind.
Yeah.
He will probably win the MVP.
Oh,
like, why on God's green earth would you ever do that? You brought that wrath down upon yourself. That was fucking stupid. That was so dumb. And the only other thing that's funny is the sheer number of women, mainly white women, but women in general, that have nothing to do with football, that have all of a sudden been like, oh, take me, Joe Burrow, take me, Daddy Joe. Like, they straight up are obsessed with him. And then all of a sudden when he lost, they're like, I volunteer my services for Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow only to make him feel better. Like, straight up obsessed with his ass at this point. And I'm like, I'm kind of here for it. I'm like, good for you, Joey B. At least you gonna get so much ass. If he's not married or engaged or some shit, he gonna get so laid from the women that were crying for him. That shit got me laughing.
Can I play you one more? This is the same thing for Tom Brady,
another
bro.
one. Play another one.
More. Here you go. The ref's walking into the Chiefs locker room right here. That's there it is.
Dude, I'm
Good stuff.
trying to tell you. I am trying to tell you. I genuinely hope that there isn't an overcorrection and there's no karma coming back to this come the Super Bowl. I hope it is as clean of a game as it could be. I genuinely hope that the Chiefs win. I cannot stress this enough. For everybody thinks that I'm some sort of fucking Chiefs hater. I'm not. They're one of my favorite teams in the league, but I genuinely like both of these teams. I hate both of the teams that played in the NFC Championship. I hate them. I do not want them to win. Dope, we got another brother playing quarterback in the Super Bowl, and we're actually having two brothers play against each other. But god damn it, do I hope the Eagles fucking fail.
Yeah, so, it's a great situation. Hold on, we got one more. I'm sorry, and then I'll stop. I'll stop after this one because
all right.
This one cracked me up here. The refs screwing, helping the Chiefs. Oh my god!
Bro, I'm saying, but again, where I do give a lot of credit, if I remember, with one of those interceptions, and maybe I'm confusing games here, but I want to say with one of those interceptions, there was a really good job, by one of the defensive players to kind of similar to what we saw the Niners do to the Cowboys last week, where they kind of batted the ball up to the other defender because they knew they couldn't put hands on it. I was like, damn, that looked like a volleyball set. Good for you, dog. Way to have that game IQ where on the one hand, there's this idea that you want to be careful about that because you're just asking for an offensive player to come out of nowhere and to keep the play moving. And now you're both on the ground. But on the other hand, if he had the wherewithal to realize, no, the homie's right here. I don't see anybody else. Yeah, that's just very smart play. And I remember seeing that from the Chiefs defense on that first interception. I was like, that's phenomenal. Good.
No. Look, I mean, for all our ball busting here, we're having fun talking about the game for sure. The Chiefs deserve a lot of credit. So does Patrick Mahomes. I know some people like to claim I have a blood feud with Patrick Mahomes. He played his heart out yesterday. He was incredible on that high ankle sprain. He was occasionally getting out of the pocket. He did throw for 300 yards. He was smart, though. He was patient with Lou's defense. And look, you can bash the Bengals all you want. The Bengals came to play. It was 2020 with almost no time left on the clock. If it hadn't been for that Joseph Ossai push, what are the Chiefs doing at that point? They've got a first down, but they've got 8 seconds left in the game. What are you going to try to do? A Hail Mary, a 60-yard field goal? We could have gone into overtime. And with Mahomes missing all of his receivers, the Bengals might have been able to take this one once again in overtime in Kansas City. So Kansas City escaped the Cincinnati Bengals for sure. They were up again on the Bengals by 10 points, and the Bengals came right back and tied the game up. So I think we're seeing Manning and Brady part 2 again here, with Mahomes being a little bit older than Burrow, just like Manning was a little bit older than Brady. And so I think we're seeing the repeat of that again in the AFC between these two guys. It's going to be exciting to watch. But the Chiefs deserve a lot of credit. Andy Reid and Bieniemy created a great game plan for Patrick Mahomes to survive. A lot of dump offs, a lot of short passes, and he was much more patient in the pocket than he was last year, trying to go for it all with his arm, trying to show off with his arm. Mahomes was much more patient, so he deserves a lot of credit for getting the ball downfield, getting them to score touchdowns, getting ahead, and then holding his nerve. But the Bengals deserve some kind of blame here, man. I think Zach Taylor, they had 2 drives in the final 5 minutes to go down the field and go ahead and get a touchdown and get a field goal and put the pressure really on the Chiefs, and they didn't do it. 2 separate drives where they blew it 3 and out, and then two sets of downs that eventually they gave up the ball. I was really surprised by that. I felt like Zach Taylor and Burrow, they felt the pressure of expectation, where last year they let it all hang out because nobody expected them to win. This year, you felt a little bit of tightness in the play calling, a little bit of tightness in Burrow. That second interception was a bad interception. So you go, okay, great. You can praise him, but clearly this is a game they're going to have to take a look at and be like, we got a little too full of ourselves. We've got the expectations. Now we've got to learn to navigate expectations and our own belief in ourselves next year. So it's going to be exciting to see the Bengals next year, and we'll see what the Chiefs do with all these injuries. Travis Kelce and his back, as you mentioned, Pacheco. Mahomes with that
by itself, because now you're talking about they were both the number 1 seeds. You're talking about the 2 best teams in football. You're talking about a team that has all the experience in the world and another team that's just been feeling the fire all season. it really will come down to health, in my opinion. And if Mahomes and Kelsey and Pacheco, the 3 stars of the offense, are all hurt, this could get ugly, honestly, because the Bengals defense is good. They're not Eagles or Niners good. It does make me a little nervous if they're injured. Now, I'm hoping the 2 weeks is enough to recover, but we'll see.
And I'll tell you why that's going to happen. Just like the Bengals got cocky last week, or smoking cigars, taking selfies, talking all the Eli Apple on Twitter, talking all that shit. Burrow was chill. Burrow's like, better refund those tickets. That's all he said. And I'm going to focus on the game. He was very chill. But the Bengals DBs were talking a lot of shit. Burrowhead, all that kind of stuff that ended up giving Kansas City a lot of motivation. They're the heart of it. Rudy Tomjanovich, I said this last week. Rudy Tomjanovich said it for the Houston Rockets. Never doubt the heart of a champion. And those guys showed up. You got to give it to them. But everybody's overlooking the Eagles. No one's talking about Jalen Hurts in the same conversation with Mahomes and Burrow. And this kid is arguably in the same level as Burrow in his 3rd year taking the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Pretty incredible stuff here. So I think they're going to be motivated by the fact that the Chiefs are, swaggering in here. They got all this stuff. And everyone is saying the Eagles have not been tested because the Giants suck and they knocked out the 2 quarterbacks from the 49ers. So they haven't really had a test yet. So everyone thinks the Chiefs are going to run all over them. That disrespect is going to motivate that Eagles defense, like you said, Winston.
I honestly think so. And it's funny. There's so many things here.
Yeah.
I know that Sean means all good by it. He just really loves his team. But like, a couple things to sit here and say that the Bengals just got outplayed technically because they won by 3. But you do realize that until the literal last second, it was 2020. So despite 2 horrendous turnovers by Joe Burrow, they were still fully keeping pace. If anything, they should have been 2 scores up on the Chiefs. So let's keep some shit in context here. It wasn't like 2 turnovers and the Chiefs turned that into like crazy points. They didn't. They kept it 2020. So like, again, I need you to keep I know you love your team, baby. And again, I support your team, but I need you to use glasses and see the same shit we all see. Okay? Let's be aware of what's happening. That yes, he threw for about what is that? Let's see, 30, about 50 yards less, and threw for 2 picks. And my guy was still in that bitch.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can't say the Bengals were outplayed. The Chiefs blew it on a number of occasions. Having 2 interceptions and not being able to turn them into big points, that's an issue. That's an issue because you guys didn't have any turnovers. Well, you had one with Mahomes fumbling the ball, boop, 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 pulling a 3 Stooges and fumbling the ball out of his hands there. So, but that ankle certainly was impeding what Mahomes was trying to do, and that showed in a lot of the play calling. That being said, you can't say you outplayed him. As Winston just said, you had the advantage. You had the refs calling the calls that they called. You had 2 interceptions from Burrow, and you still had the game tied with 8 seconds left on the game clock. And that doesn't say that you outplayed them. But Sean needs to believe the things he needs to believe. God, I love him. And look, odds makers
for him. You made it back to the. Just now, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Don't you take your ass to 3 Super Bowls and lose 2. Yeah. You better come out that bitch 2-1 and not 1-2, motherfucker. You do not want to carry that Peyton. Now, mind you, Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Of course. One of the things that he got lambasted for is every time it was time to do something in the playoffs, especially Super Bowls, it was like, bruh. So, like, you better tell Patrick Mahomes to handle his motherfucking business. That's all I'm telling you. You better tell him to fucking ice that ankle up and do some lumbar stretches and shit. Because
Am I bringing this up?
Yes, please bring this up, because here's the other part of the game that a lot of people were talking about. I do need to play sound for this, so I'll try to play it only once. So there was a situation where a certain person on the mic almost ruined their entire career.
Oh, yes. I remember this happening. I
didn't hear this because I was in a loud ass bar. I did hear it when I got home. So just watch this replay and listen to the talking heads, if you will.
The tough yards, the finish, and the play. Right there, you got 3. You talked about this.
I'm just gonna play the very last thing because I don't want to get us in trouble with the sound. But
talked about this is the best tackling team. They don't miss tackles. Talked about 3. Talked about this.
So I love Tony Romo, but it really felt like my guy was like, you got and then he realized what he was about to say and he cut that shit off, bro. I am appalled. I mean, at least he caught himself.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
At least he caught himself, bro. Holy shit.
Well, that wasn't the only thing he did, because during the game, he also compared Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler in comparing. But Romo compared Patrick Mahomes to Jordan and Joe Burrow to Clyde Drexler in this scenario, which was a reference to the 1992 NBA Finals between Jordan's Bulls and Dexter's Portland Trailblazers. It was the same series where Jordan shrugged after hitting the shot. The Bulls won the series 4-2. But all these people on Twitter went after Romo for this. And Alex Kramer says, I don't remember Clyde Drexler ever making a play like that versus MJ. And Ryan Whitney saying, Romo somehow rambling on and on into talking about Clyde Drexler is bizarro world stuff. Then that meme of Jordan looking at the laptop there, or the iPad, saying MJ finding out why Clyde Drexler is trending. And someone's DJ Stephen Plaus, Clyde Drexler at home just minding his own business. So just hilarious, these shots that I think it's been incredible to watch Romo regressing almost, I would say, over the last couple of years. It's kind of shocking because everyone's been talking about how great he is. Everyone was all up in his ass, but Greg Olson seems to have taken his spot. He's been doing some fantastic job in analysis, and Romo's been kind of flying off the handle, making these weird comparisons. And as you just said, almost said the N-word, possibly on national television during a game. That's the end of your career. If you let that extra consonant out of your mouth after the vowel, you're done. If he had said N-I-G, he was done.
Bro,
Finished.
and I like
Finished.
it's what look, I've talked about this multiple times. Ain't no reason why a white person should be saying it. And like that you shouldn't. If there was ever a moment that was happening, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I would have been simultaneously angry, but I would have laughed so hard.
Oh my God.
Because I saw some, like, and there he is.
Yeah.
There he is, Joe Mixon, and he sheds 2 tackles, and he had 3 niggas ready to hit his ass up, and he said, nah, son. Like, that would have been funny to me. But I also would have been like, well, now Tony Romo's dead to me. Like, I don't, like, talk about the ultimate interception. He was known for throwing a lot of interceptions in his career, bro. That would have been the worst one. That would have been the absolute worst one by far. And it's like, how do you still throw the worst interception of your life after you retired?
No.
Like, that's oh my
Only
God.
Only Romo could do that. Only Romo could do that.
I feel like all of a sudden everybody be like, you know what, Dak Prescott, all right, though. Dak Prescott, he ain't done nothing wrong. He doing just fine. But all that being said, man, yeah. I am ecstatic to see what the Chiefs go off and do in this Super Bowl, in this championship game. They have all the pieces they need to do it. Literally, my only linchpin for them is health. That's it. Yeah. If they're healthy, I think they're the stronger team. Yeah. You know, especially because I look at the losses that came to Philly. Yeah. And mind you, 2 of them were with your backup in place.
Oh, yeah. No,
three of them came with your backup in place.
Yeah, you can't take. No, you can't.
So I see all of that, and you know what I'm saying. But the Chiefs are tested. They've been up against shit like this before, and I definitely think that they have the edge. Literally, the only reason I am favoring the Eagles currently is with the number of injuries we're talking about. I just need to see is Patrick Mahomes able to move his feet? Like, is he actually able to go? Because otherwise, Fletcher Cox will be up your ass. Oh, like, yeah. Let's get, and so will Sue. Sue and Cox will be up your ass if you cannot move around. So
yeah, good point there, Fred. For those of you who are old enough to remember, it was almost Howard Cosell time all over again. Howard Cosell was the announcer for Monday Night Football. He was covering my Skins during a game, I think, in the 1980s, and of course, legendary broadcaster Howard Cosell, who Muhammad Ali was one of his dear friends, and they had great back and forth. During a Monday Night Football game live, he's called one of the receivers. Look at that little M-word animal go. Look at that little M-word animal go. And that was the end of Howard Cosell. That was pretty much the end.
God damn.
Because, I mean, he didn't understand that the public had changed and then that word is a racist word to use to call a black person. And he may not have meant it in a racial way, and I bet he didn't. But you still can't say it if you're the lead broadcaster, especially if you're a white guy on Monday Night Football. That was pretty much it. It's like Jimmy the Greek when he got drunk and started saying the reason there are such great football players is because back in slavery days, the slave owners used the strong black man and paired them with a strong black woman so they would birth children that could do the work in the fields. He literally said that at a event while he was drunk, talking about why there are so many great black athletes in the NFL. That was literally his explanation. So we've come a long way. We're not all the way out, but we've come a long way from what used to be there. And Romo almost joined that class of announcer with that, if he had finished that word. So yeah. All right. Let's see here. Let's see what else. Oh, let's talk about Joseph Ossai and his thing real quick, Winston. I want to show a little bit of the reaction here on to him. Listen, if you're going to have a guy make a mistake on your team, I want BJ Hill or someone like BJ Hill standing next to me. Here he is talking to the press with Joseph Ossai next to him, defending his guy.
Dumb question. Come on. He played his butt off the whole game. That's a different question.
Overall, what it looked like guys were coming up to you on the sideline as you went through that. What was it like having guys come up and kind of go?
Like I said, it was great knowing that I called the penalty.
He's just guarding. He's watching over his man, dude. He is watching over his brother, man. That's some good shit. When you compare what Jermaine Fletcher did coming out of the going into the locker room and basically yelling about Joseph Ossai making that mistake, forgetting how many great plays he had made throughout the whole game. So that's what you want. I get it. You make a bonehead mistake. He's 22 years old. The kid's going to learn. He was destroyed on the sideline crying. And I love the fact that you had a teammate sitting there monitoring the questions, shutting some of the reporters down and letting Ossai speak his piece, but not letting him get embarrassed by these reporters who have no concept of what it's like to be in a pressure situation like that in their careers. What'd you think about this, man?
Look, because Ossai, it just looking at him, he looks like he's young. Mm-hmm. He looks like he's in his mid-20s.
He's 22. He's 22.
There you go. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He just give the kid some grace, man. I certainly hope, because I know how people are assholes. Yes. I'm sure somebody has made a death threat. I'm sure somebody has started going off on a racist rant about how you ruined our whatever.
Sure.
I don't want to think that. I just know how the world works.
Yeah.
Homie clearly knew he fucked up and he apologized for it. And to me, what he did was so small on the scale. Yes, it had an unfortunate direct effect of putting the Chiefs into field goal range to win the game, versus what I look at what the fucking Niners did. That was disgusting. And I'm sure we'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about the Trent Williams.
I'm sure we'll talk about that, because that was gross. And then in doing so, and I'm grateful that Jalen Hurts was very smart about it and he stayed out of it.
Yeah, he did.
You were essentially putting the Eagles at risk if they fell for that trap and really started to fight with you. All of a sudden, they're going to the Super Bowl with everybody suspended, and then they're getting mollywopped. You know what I'm saying? So, I am grateful that that not because I'm rooting for the Eagles, but I don't want to see them lose off of some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I want them to lose because the other team beat the brakes off of them, and I want to laugh at Philly for that. I don't need Philly coming back and crying, what if the Niners didn't start that fight? You know what I'm saying? I don't need that. Mm-mm.
Also, Sean is a bit of a dick here. He's saying Ossai has drinks for life in KC. Don't forget in 2019 what happened to your boy here against the Patriots, D Ford, when he lined up off sides and gave the Patriots the game, in essence, in that championship game or in that playoff game. Would you like it if a Patriots fan was like, D Ford has drinks for life in New England because he helped us? It wouldn't be a good thing. So, be a good sport. It won't kill you. It won't break your back.
Let him do this, because you remember what happened the last time someone said, ooh, we Patrick Mahomes' daddy. Yeah. Do that. Put that negativity in the motherfucking world right now. Come on, Craig. I want to see what happens, Craig.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, you can't have a short memory in these kinds of things when you're a sports fan. But maybe Sean's young. Maybe Sean's the age of Joseph Ossai, making young mistakes for a young man. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, you know what? The Chiefs deserve the credit. They win. But yes, I don't think it was the one play that cost the game. Zach Taylor, the coach, came out and said the same thing. There are multiple plays. And I think Zach Taylor's going to take it on the chin, too, as a coach. I think he blew a number of moments here to get the Bengals into a better position to win that game. If the Bengals take that drive with 2.5 minutes left and go all the way down the field and score a touchdown and piss away all that time, or score a field goal with no seconds left on the clock, they win the game in KC again by a field goal. That was on the deck, but they couldn't get the job done in that final drive. And KC got the ball back with like 40 seconds left. Were able to get into position thanks to that Ossai late hit and kick the field goal, won the game. That's just the way it worked out. And I got a feeling that Ossai next year is going to be a massive player for the Bengals and will make the play that either wins them the Super Bowl or gets them to the Super Bowl. That's the way karma is sometimes in the NFL, because the way he reacted, he didn't throw shit. He didn't punch people out. He didn't get mad at everybody. He sat there and he took it and he stayed on the field crying and he felt the emotions of it. And he faced the press. How many players don't face the Cam Newton walked out of a press conference after the Super Bowl. Not everybody can face the press.
Look, I really like Cam.
Yeah.
Cam was a little bitch about that. I was defending him at the time because I was like, bro, like, I get it. Like, leave him alone and y'all gonna try and come at his head. But at the same time, I think about it, and especially, and I think where I've gotten perspective in the long run, I think Naomi Osaka really put a lot of stuff in perspective for me. Absolutely. And I think you couple that now even with Jonah Hill. There was a report I saw about Jonah Hill will no longer be doing any sort of press for any of his projects. He's made that very clear in his contracts, because for his own mental health, he's like, I am done having people make comments about my body. I am done with people like bringing up stuff that I have left in the past and it's not good for me. Yeah. So like, I respect him for that. And so in retrospect, I owe an apology to Cam Newton and I apologize for that. But I give Ossai credit that he took it on the fucking chin. Yeah. If it was me, I know people are going to try and call you a coward for that, but I would have been like, nope, I got to go. I can't. Like, I would have been fucking crying in the shower. Everybody would have left and I would have still been in the shower fucking crying, bro. Like, good for him.
Like, what's his face in Arrested Development. So, yeah. All right.
Oh, so don't do this. Oh, God damn it. You're talking about David Cross as
David Cross, the never nude.
The never nude. Oh my God, bro.
So we'll see what happens. But let's take a quick break. We'll jump into that Niners Eagles game. What was left of it? We'll talk about it here right after this. All right, Winston, this was a completely different game that started off the two games yesterday there at noon our time. The Philadelphia Eagles hosting the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of hype behind this game. Certainly people were wondering, could the Eagles do it? Could they take care of business at home? I had picked the Eagles, but I didn't think they were going to win by much. Brock Purdy coming in here as Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, undefeated, walking into Philadelphia. And within 2 drives, he had been knocked out of the game with an elbow injury. Felt a little bit like Colt McCoy in that Texas National Championship game. And eventually, Josh Johnson comes in, who was their 4th stringer and had been on almost every NFL team in his career. And then he got knocked out by a concussion. And Brock Purdy had to come in. They essentially raised the white flag and just started handing the ball off. Meanwhile, the Eagles had scored like 31 points. So they ended up winning this game in strong fashion. But I don't know what you take away from this game, because I'll say this. The 49ers kept it real close up until the final minute or 2 of the half. No, I think if Shanahan doesn't try to go for too much with Josh Johnson, you kind of sit on the tie or you sit on the close score and you roll into halftime and see what you got afterwards. Him trying to get something out of Josh Johnson led to that fumble, which led to the Eagles scoring another touchdown, 21-7 without your starting quarterback. It was a tough thing to come back from, especially when you have someone like Josh Johnson, not someone like Brock Purdy coming in as your backup. And eventually the game was pretty much over after that. So what do you take away from this? I mean, the Eagles played well, but you can play well when you're not really afraid of the team, because all they do is hand off the ball and you've got a shitty 4th string quarterback running your offense.
But that was the whole thing. I mean, Josh Johnson didn't even do terrible. He went 7 for 13 for 74 yards. It's just that very quickly, homeboy got his shit rocked. On top of the fact they had 2 sacks on him, which means there were 2 other plays where he didn't even get a chance to set up for a thing. And that's just because he is the 4th string quarterback. It is wild to think that a team would have 4 fucking quarterbacks play for them in a season. That is wild. Now, this was one of those situations where I genuinely felt bad for the Niners most of this game because of the parity here, because of the fact that I didn't even see it because I was in class. I just see a text come through, go, yo, it's Brock Purdy is dead. And I was like, what? Like, because my boys talking, and I feel like they got to stop using that language after what we witnessed with DeMar Hamlin and shit. But he was like, nah, man, that's a wrap on Purdy. And I was like, what's going on? And then I saw what happened, and it sounded like he had hit like the kind of that nerve in the funny bone. His entire arm apparently went numb. So when he was like trying to throw, he was like, nah, I can't do it. So that's the thing. When you said that the Niners kept it close, the hell they did. No, they did not. Maybe the score didn't explode on you.
In the second half, they took care of business. But
okay, cool. You only let 10 points by. But bro, that was not close at all. That was because it's like you said. At a certain point, you were like, well, we can't throw. You saw 2 attempts of a throw from Purdy. Both of them were screens because he could not throw.
Right, exactly.
And they immediately got lit up. And then all of it was like, they're giving it to McCaffrey. They're going to try and give it to Debo. They're going to try and give it to Kid. They literally tried to run it with everybody. And like they were like, bitch, I know it's a run. We're stacking the box. We just got to figure out who has the fucking ball. So no, the minute Josh Johnson was done, this game was over.
Yeah.
It looked bad when Purdy went out. But it was a wrap when they were like, well, we got to put Purdy back in because you literally have 0. You have 0.
Yeah, he said, Purdy said, it just felt like really a lot of shocks all over from my elbow down to my wrist and the back of my arm, just pain all over. And I told the coach right there, if we run and play, I cannot throw deep. So it's pretty sad situation. I mean, McCaffrey tied the game up in the second quarter with a 23-yard touchdown run that was a monster move from a guy who had just come onto the team a few weeks ago. What a leadership move there to kind of bang through that Eagles defense and get into that end zone. But then it was like 14-7. The Eagles had come down and scored quickly. And then what I said happened there at the end of the first half with Josh Johnson fumbling that ball and then the Eagles picking that up and going up 21-7. So I think that's when it was done. To me, it was done at the end of the first half. You're not going to come back 14 points when you don't have a strong quarterback sitting behind center. And you're right. When Purdy came in, it was pretty much them raising the white flag for sure. But I don't know what you take away from this about the Eagles. They took care of business. They got the job done, but we didn't see them we didn't see them really get tested by these 49ers because of the fact that Brock Purdy got knocked out so early in the game. So it's just a shame. And yet it's the second time that Shanahan has taken. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I will give you this. You're right.
Okay.
They didn't get like a real team at 100% coming for the rope, but there is something to be said. It's not their fault because they weren't intentionally trying to hurt anybody. It's just football.
No, so wait, went
There's
out.
something to be said that they still handled their business.
Yes.
Because you could have very easily, because Nick Bosa was out there with holes in his fucking leg.
Yeah.
And he was still playing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't doing as much as he normally does, but he was out here in these streets. So, like, I do think that it's a situation where I am. It behooved the Eagles to win this handily, and to win 31-7 is spot on. And again, like I said, they still scored twice in the second half from a Niners defense that, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't let people score in the second half. I want to say that might be all of the points that have been scored against them in the last like 10 games in the second half, which is insane.
Yeah. And look, they came down and scored right off the bat on the first drive. The Eagles did. They made a statement on that first drive. They were not going to be. They're not the Giants. They're not the. They're going to take care of business. They're not the Seahawks. They're going to take care of business. They're going to run down there and get that touchdown. And pretty much everyone had been wondering if the 49ers were going to beat Philadelphia. People still disrespect Philadelphia. So even someone earlier in the chat saying, "Oh, they lost to the Commanders," and okay, the loss to the Commanders. Okay, I give you that one. But the other two losses were when Jalen Hurts wasn't even playing. So to me, I don't even count those losses in my mind. And Jalen Hurts came back and played the safest game he's ever played in that final game, just so they could lock down the number 1 seed And this is why, because they were going to have all the advantage going through the playoffs, and now they are in the Super Bowl. And Jalen Hurts, who is not even being talked about in the same breath as Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, if he outplays Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, that narrative is completely going to change, And so this is going to be really fascinating to see how the Eagles defense plays a actual quarterback in the playoffs for the first time, because I do not think Daniel Jones is an actual quarterback. And we're going to be clear, and I'm going to be very interested to see how the Chiefs defense handles all the weapons that the Eagles have, because they had a hard time handling those Cincinnati Bengals weapons for sure. Even with Joe Burrow's 2 interceptions, the Bengals almost still had a chance to win that game. So to me, I'm wondering how this is all going to play out. But Winston, yeah, go ahead, brother.
No. I was going to say, what I really find interesting was the fact that, the minute the Chiefs are no longer being talked about, that Sean Brennan just completely disappears off the face of the planet. But he just spoke up. He just spoke up about the Eagles beating Daniel Jones and Christian McCaffrey, and that he's not impressed. Yeah. You need to be. Look, man, I don't like admitting it. I haven't liked admitting it all season. I was the first one out of the two of us because Rocha was out here caping for the Vikings, and I was they're fraudulent. And I said, you need to put respect on the best team in football, because the Eagles were for most of the season.
Let's be correct. I never caped for the fucking Vikings. I don't ever cape for Kirk Cousins.
You were like, are you seriously not concerned about the Vikings? Look at their record. Look what they're doing. And I'm like, they're fraudulent, bro. I'm trying to tell you they're fraudulent.
But yes, I did not believe in the Eagles. You were right about that for a majority of the season, for sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing. These are legitimately, when you look top to bottom from the start of the season to the end of the season, even through all of their adversity. Yeah. I kept saying that the Niners were the most well-rounded team in football, and I thought that they were the best. But I gotta give credit where credit is due. While I felt like it was their championship to lose, which to me they kind of proved it. The fact that the Niners were that injured and kept the Eagles to 10 points in the second half is still impressive. Yeah. Because at that point, when you're that beat up and you're putting your defense back out there constantly, there's no reason that Jalen Hurts shouldn't have put up like another 21 to 35 points on their ass. It's just why
was he still in the game in the fourth quarter? I would have never let him play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, at all. To make sure that this was over, because again, they weren't really scoring. They only got 10 points in the second half. Like, you know what I'm saying? They put up 21 in the first half. They only got 10 points in that second half. So I get it. You want to make sure that there isn't some magical rally that came from the 49ers. But again, now I kind of want to talk about what went down.
Okay. Okay.
So there was definitely some plays from that defense that they were upset now that their dreams were clearly dashed. Their offense couldn't do anything, where they were making some pretty ugly fucking hits.
Yeah.
And then there was a point where a hit happened. And there was a lot of jib-jabbing and a lot of shoving and pushing. And then I believe it was a Niners player who decided to fully just like body slam an Eagles player.
It was Trent Williams, former Washington Commanders lineman Trent Williams.
Yeah, right. He's trying to pull him off. He's coming. There it is.
Bang.
That.
Yeah.
And to that point, maybe he's a little pissy. If he's a former Washington Commander, then he probably doesn't like the Eagles in the first place. That's just in his blood from where he started off. But like the minute you did that, and I get there's a lot of arguing and pushing and shoving, and Lord knows what's being yelled at that point. Who was the last person to poke somebody in the eye or whatever else? Yeah. But that's too far. And then what you saw happen, you saw the Niners bench fully clear.
Yeah.
You watched the Eagles very hesitantly clear because they knew we have already won this game.
Right.
You know what I'm not about to do? Not playing the Super Bowl over a nigga moment. That's essentially what happened. And I know you can't say that. It's fine. I'm doing it for the both of us. If anybody that watches the Boondocks, they talk about that, where all it takes is one little minor thing where two niggas get into it, and then all of a sudden they're having a moment, and like the running joke is like, today is a perfectly good day to throw your life away. You would have thrown your postseason life away if you really got involved in that scrum. And I'm also curious, the other player that got disqualified, if he will also, from the Eagles, if he will also get a suspension, because that was what a lot of the talk was with New York, was like, okay, so what does this mean? Like, is this a situation where some Eagles players will not be able to play in the Super Bowl? And they were like, Well, it depends on what they like. Look at the final scrum and say what happened. So I look at that, and to be honest with you, I'm not saying that emotions aren't high. I got really disgusted with the Niners. To me, it felt like you know how I feel about Nick Bosa. I think he's trash. He showed his little racist ass, but when he got drafted, so I don't like him. I can admit that he's talented, but I don't like him.
Yep.
And so it feels like watching that, the sort of energy that I got from Bosa seems to be permeating through that defense.
Yeah,
it feels like just watching that like, because some of the hits got really vicious when it was clearly out of like they were genuinely starting to headhunt motherfuckers. And then to see them start that scrum and to watch the whole team be like, hell yeah, fuck. And like the Eagles be like, yo, like chill. Like you only saw like a handful of people rush out on the field from the Eagles side because they knew what was on the line. You know what I'm saying?
Let me put something out here to underscore your point here, Winston. I don't know if you saw this, but this happened during the game. Let me turn the sound down. I want to get us struck here. Here is a punch. That is a punch being thrown by Greenlaw.
At the ball.
But still.
No. They tell you to punch out the ball. I'm not.
No, you can punch up and down when he has already stood up and he is giving himself up.
I'm not going to let you do this.
Yeah,
I don't like the Niners. I am not going to let you do this. You can believe that all you want, but you are taught to punch out the ball to force a fumble. That's why all the running backs and receivers be doing so many curls, because you got to fucking flex the shit out of that ball and it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
that was him trying to punch the ball. I am not letting you do that.
But here's the counterpoint. You can punch all day long, and I've watched football because I've been alive longer than you for more decades than you, and I've seen people punch balls out, and I totally get it. That's fine. But when a player is held up, in essence, giving himself up to keep punching, I think is going way too far, because you're being covered by the other player. Are you sure you're hitting the ball with every punch? It's dangerous. There's a difference between this, trying to knock the ball out, and straight punching. That to me goes a little too far. That's where I draw the line.
With that. What I have a problem with is somebody saying in the chat, I think it's MK Sombart, said that the play was blown dead. If the play was blown dead and you're doing that, then I have a problem. Right. Then I have an issue. If the play, like, it looked like the things were still moving. So if you're trying to knock a fumble loose, because God knows they needed it.
Yeah.
We're having a different conversation, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about this other thing that happened, because I was looking at some of the penalties to see if I can underscore some of your points. But what about that catch? I mean, what do we do with this kind of a situation where Devante Smith does not make that catch, plays like he made that catch? The Eagles run down. This is on the first drive to get to that touchdown. Run down and hike the ball before Shanahan can throw the flag. What we've got to be able to outlaw that out of the game, for God's sakes. If a catch is that questionable, or you might have an issue about the catch, I think the refs should be allowed to stop the game, take a look at the replays, and decide if it's a catch or not. If you're a referee, you want to make sure you make the right call. So why aren't all of those options being explored to make sure referees make the right call? You can't depend on coaches who don't have access to all the angles within 5 seconds to be the ones that throw the red flag. I think that's completely unfair. Either side, I think it's competitively unfair.
I mean, I think that's where the people upstairs, I think that's where the people in New York, that's where they need to step up.
Yeah.
But I think that's a part of strategy, is that if you can get the ball snapped before they're able to do it, it sucks.
Yeah, I think we should outlaw that. To be kicked out of the game. I think all that should be kicked out of the game. I really do.
The idea of being able to like rush a play.
Yes. All of that should be kicked out of the game. If you're seeing a team run up as a referee, if I'm seeing a team run up after what may be a questionable play, stop the game immediately. Take a look at the play. If it's confirmed,
definitely not a catch.
It happens in football.
I hadn't seen it, but yeah, that's definitely not a catch.
That's not a catch. The ball completely came out, and he knew it. That's why Devante was like, "Come on, guys, get down the field." You know,
but then to that point, that is on New York. That is on the refs to go, okay, hold on, bitch. Like, you know what I'm saying? To be like, wait a minute. Right. Why are you all sprinting 60 yards to hike the ball? Like, there is like a full game left. So this ain't like we only have 10 seconds before the game is out. That's at that point is on New York and is on the refs to be like, why are you doing this? But
Yeah.
it's part of it's part of the game. And I cannot fault somebody for using something that's part of the game to do that.
No, of course
what
not.
I'm saying?
No, I'm not faulting the Eagles and Sirianni for doing that. That's smart playing. You play within the rules and the rules that have been constructed in the construct of the game. Totally. They did the right job. They did the right thing. They got their touchdown. Is it cheating? But they got their touchdown, and you play within the rules that you've got. But I think the NFL, because they do this every year at the competition committee, look at things that they want to correct about the game. I really think they need to take a look at this because there are not that many questionable plays. So for me, I think in moments like that, especially a critical fourth and whatever in an NFC Championship game, I think you got to take a moment, stop the game, take a look at it to make sure you make the right call because you put the other team in a competitive disadvantage because they went on and scored that touchdown and immediately they're down 7-0. Now, so that's the thing that I think they have to outlaw.
It is a calculated risk.
Yeah, sure.
But in that case, if you don't want to throw the challenge flag, you call a timeout and give your guys time to look at it.
That's not a bad idea. You waste a timeout, I guess. That's not a bad idea.
Because the only problem with that, if you do that, call a timeout to take the time to look at it, and then you challenge it, and the refs still are like, yeah, I don't know, you just lost 2 timeouts.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's a little dangerous. But for something that because it was like a 60-yard catch or some shit.
Yeah, it was a 60-yard. It was a 4th and 1. It was a 4th and 1 about 30-yard catch. Yeah.
But puts you in the red zone and very close, like within 10 yards of the red zone of the end zone.
Yeah,
I just think like that's on Shanahan to maybe not think for a second we should stop, but also probably from the standpoint that you got to remember that hindsight is 2020. Who knew that like immediately after that, then when Purdy's out on the field, he's going to get hurt in that first drive or second drive or whatever the fuck it is. Because if you knew that you had limited time and you have to keep them from genuinely scoring as quickly as possible, you maybe look at it with a different lens where you're like, we'll get it back. I'm not worried about it. You know what I'm saying? Like you think very differently depending on what the situation is. And this is the opening drive. You were like, this is considered one of the best teams in football.
Yeah, I'll have time to make up the 7 points. That's not a big deal. Right. I want to save my timeouts. I might need them by the end of the half, especially because I think this is going to be a tight game. Yeah, you get the thinking. I understand why Shanahan did what he did. And look, again, everyone's like, it's on Shanahan. It's on Shanahan. It's not like Shanahan had all the angles. It was like, fuck it. I'm not going to throw the red flag. I'll make it up. No, he didn't have all the angles immediately. If you throw that red flag and it's a catch, that's a timeout that you lose. And in what you think is going to be a competitively tight game, that timeout could cost you. And so to me, I think we have to take these kinds of situations out of the hands of the coaches so you restore competitive fairness and you as the referee go, wait a minute, we're going to take a look at this real quick and confirm it. It happens in football all the time. They check offsides all the time. In international football, they check goals all the time. And it takes a minute or two to make sure the checks are fine, and then you move on.
I get what you're saying, Rocha,
yes.
But come on, dude. Games will go from being 3 hours to 5. Like you're gonna every single time a catch happens, you're gonna go, okay, now run back the replay and let's. But that's what I'm saying. So unless it's something wild, so if you want to add a rule because it was 4th down,
yes,
so that the implications are huge because that's a turnover on downs.
Yes,
if you want to do that for that reason,
I can accept.
Okay. I could accept that, but it makes logical sense that it really should only happen during scoring plays. Otherwise, that's to me that's nonsense. But if you want to add one for a turnover on downs because that is change of possession, sure, I will give you that. Shake on it. There you go. Yeah. Okay.
We found some common ground. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean,
that we both want the Eagles to lose. Yeah, no, I know, bro.
But I think we're set. So, let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump into our predictions here for the Super Bowl right after this. All right, Winston, it's all set up here. Andy Reid's former team versus Andy Reid's current team here in the Super Bowl, which really struck me. The first time we're seeing 2 starting black quarterbacks play in the Super Bowl again for the Super Bowl. And also, this is a very interesting situation here. We rarely get 1 versus 1 in the Super Bowl as well. This essentially went chalk in the top team in the AFC versus the top team in the NFC. So a lot here to take a look at in this game. And we have 2 weeks of constant stories and, conversations and analysis about this game. So you tell me, where do you land right now as you're looking at the situation with Kansas City, as you mentioned earlier, some of the injuries, but also at Philadelphia, who maybe should have scored more points, like you said, in the second half when it looked like they pretty much had won the game, or were that the 49ers are kind of giving up here. So what do you think is going to happen in the Super Bowl? What's your gut telling you right now?
My gut is telling me that this is purely injuries. This is purely injuries because all the injuries in Kansas City are on the stars. I said this before: Pacheco, Kelsey, and Mahomes.
Oh, I forgot to mention it's also brother versus brother, right? Sorry.
Yeah, that too. So you've got brothers versus brothers, and you got brothers versus brothers. They're happy and they're singing and they're colored. Give me a high five. Like I just, so that there's a lot of really cool firsts going on here. It's fun to hear all of that. So I'm definitely here for it. It's also the battle of Andy Reid and his old team.
Yes.
The team that he moved on to, and the team that, so him essentially, with his new wife and having to look at his ex, and his ex is doing well too, and he's got to make a decision. Am I just going to like embarrass her right now, or am I going to like be classy about this? Like there's a very interesting set of random things happening in this Super Bowl. I love it.
Okay.
All that being said, it looks like Philly is the favorite by point. They're 50.1. 50.1 is the thing. So by 0.1%, they are the favorite. I would agree with that based upon the Eagles defense, the fact that Jalen Hurts was also an MVP candidate prior to getting injured, and that they are the healthier team. I think if Kansas City was fully healthy right now, and they might be by Super Bowl Sunday, in which case I would make them the favorites.
Yeah.
For me, it is purely a health-based reason. That's it. Because I give the edge to Kansas City. If both teams are fully healthy, I give the edge to Kansas City because of experience.
Right.
Because you have been here before, because you have been to either a Super Bowl or at least an AFC Championship game for like the last 5 fucking years. So like you have the experience not only from him but from the coach in Andy Reid. Mahomes is out here playing like he wants to unseat Tom Brady as the GOAT. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's not that Jalen Hurts isn't playing his ass off, and they clearly are rallied around him in that locker room.
Yeah.
I just genuinely think there are too many things stacked in Kansas City's favor. But again, if any of these backs or ankles are not 100%, I instantly, because it's that tight, move in favor of the Eagles, which is why I think a lot of the stat lines are moving more towards the Eagles right now,
Yeah, and here's the history of how the stat line went over the last couple of days here. Kansas City was installed as a favorite over the Eagles by 1 point by the end of the day yesterday. The gamblers disagreed. This is according to the New York Times. The gamblers disagreed, thought the sports books had it wrong, and they pounced on the bets. And within an hour, the Eagles were the Super Bowl favorites now. By Monday, they were favored by 2 to 2.5 points. And the analysis here, they were looking at gamblers who bet early tend to be well respected. They're called sharp money. And when they all seem to like one team, bookmakers scrambled to change the line. Well, why did they change to Philadelphia? One key reason was, which we've been talking about, is the injuries. Patrick Mahomes dealing with his ankle sprain, Travis Kelce with his back, and those 3 receivers that went out during the game yesterday at different times of the game with injuries. So we don't know how serious those injuries are, and seeing how quickly Philadelphia dispatched the 49ers in the second half led to this situation. So it's gone back and forth. So I put no credibility in either. To me, this is a pick'em situation. Because they're going to have 2 weeks to recover. Usually from a high ankle sprain, 3 weeks is what it takes. And it's going to be 3 weeks since he had that high ankle sprain by the time he plays in the Super Bowl, barring him not injuring himself in practice or anything, which we don't want to see. And then the receivers, what level of injury are we talking about with these receivers and with Travis Kelce? That's a huge loss. Kelce was able to make it through the game. Doesn't mean he'll make it through the Super Bowl. And those Eagles are going to come for everything. They are some hard-hitting guys on defense. So it's going to be curious. The Eagles are not injured. They've got a great all-world receiver there for them. They've got a burgeoning great quarterback in Jalen Hurts. They got a nice running back by committee with Gainwell in Boston. So there's a lot going on for these Eagles. Devante Smith's a damn good receiver as well. And homie from the Tennessee Titans. That's their all-world receiver there.
Brown,
yeah, A.J. Brown. So certainly there's going to be a lot of motivation for this Eagles team to take on what in essence are the new Patriots. And remember, the
No,
last time the
for
Eagles
sure.
played those Patriots, they beat them. So
Mhm.
I got a lot of questions here going into us. But yes, I do favor the Eagles, not because of the blood feud, not because I hate Patrick Mahomes. I just think this team is much healthier. They're driven, they're determined. They're under a new coach, a new regime, and a young quarterback. And I think they want it, and they want to prove something, So this is going to be a hell of a clash, but I do think the Eagles win it either by 7 or by 3. But also, let me throw this out here. Don't be surprised if it's a blowout. Just like they got blown out by Tampa Bay, don't be surprised if the Chiefs show up here and get absolutely mollywopped by the Eagles. But all things being equal, I think it's going to be a tighter game, and maybe by 7 or 3 points, the Eagles win this one.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that it could only be a blowout in favor of the Eagles? Now
Yes,
it sounds like a fucking blood feud. And
I don't think
have
there's
to
any
call
way the
you
Chiefs
out,
can
bro.
blow out the Eagles. No.
What? You don't
Yeah.
think the Chiefs can't blow out the Eagles? When again, part of what I was about to talk about, it's funny because ESPN has their reasons for hope and their reasons for concern.
Yeah.
So one of the big reasons for hope, obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes, top scoring offense, blah 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 blah. That's the but they had 55 sacks, ranked second to only the Eagles. So that's a big thing. But the biggest thing of concern, the Chiefs defense has allowed the third worst in the NFL, an average of 54.4 QBR.
Yeah.
Against opposing quarterbacks in the regular season, and our massive pushovers in the red zone were 67.3% of the time people were within the red zone, they scored.
Yeah.
Like they allowed people to score 67.3% of the time.
Yeah.
Now on the flip side for the Eagles, obviously you got Hurts, you got that defense, everything like that. 70 sacks in the regular season. That's the third most in NFL history. But here's some of the takeaways from that. They got really their biggest thing is those takeaways, and when they weren't getting them, things were looking a little rocky. And on top of that, the most complete offense that they saw, according to ESPN, was Dak Prescott and the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, and he put up 3 touchdown passes for 347 yards to beat them 40 to 34. The fuck you think Patrick Mahomes gonna do?
I don't know.
I don't know who I am today, Dak Prescott. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck you think Patrick Mahomes gonna do to your ass?
Here's a counter, okay? Divisional foes are divisional foes. And remember, this is a team that lost to the Colts. So what are they swaggering about? So, I mean, to me, and that was with all their players, okay? So to me, this is for all the things about the Eagles. To me, I don't put too much stock in that whole situation with the Cowboys. That's a divisional rival. Divisional rivals show up to play each other. They sometimes know each other better than other teams.
I got a question.
What?
I got a
My
question
Commanders beat the Eagles. It's a divisional rival.
Yeah, but I got a question for you though.
Okay, I'm trying to finish my point, then we'll get you.
I don't. But your point is moot. Here's why
it's not moot.
Point. Yes, it is.
Okay.
What's your excuse for the goddamn Saints? Ain't no divisional rival. Held them bitches to 10 points and scored 20 on them with no offense.
But Jalen wasn't playing.
I understand that.
That's the difference.
But the Eagles defense let a literal non-offense score 20 points on them.
Let me tell you how the human mind works and the human emotion works. All right. You're already locked into your position winning the division, and you're playing a team. You're not as motivated. You don't have Jalen Hurts. So you're not as motivated to play. So that little bit of extra edge, that little bit of extra thing, it isn't there. Just like the 49ers against the Eagles in the second half, they knew they were cooked. And so they didn't play as hard. They didn't play. You could tell it wasn't. And the Eagles were just playing it safe by handing the ball off and not trying to do too much. That's what that was. That's logic.
It was a trap
game.
It was a trap game.
But I don't think the Eagles, you're not going to get the Eagles that played the Saints. You're not going to get that Eagles in the Super Bowl. You're going to get the best Eagles that you're going to see this whole season playing these Chiefs.
I don't disagree. You're going to get the best.
Sirianni's a great coach.
However, this is where you're wrong. It was not locked up. The conversation was, would Dallas usurp the NFC East title, let alone would the 49ers take the number 1 seed and get the bye week? That was still very much on the line at the time, and you got embarrassed by New Orleans, who genuinely has not had a quarterback situation. You had to put the ball fully through Kamara the entirety of the season because Mike Thomas ain't never going to play again. And you know what I'm saying? But
this might surprise you, but teams overlook other teams sometimes. This might surprise you, Winston, but it happens.
I don't
disagree.
We've seen that happen. That's
being a
that's
Dallas
what I
fan,
meant
you
by
know.
that's what I meant by trap game. That's why I meant by
Yeah.
trap game, because there's no reason that Dallas almost lost to the Texans or the Colts. Neither of those made sense, but here we are, and that almost was a thing.
Look,
So
the Chiefs almost lost to the Broncos. They won 27-24 in the second to last week of the season. They
and that was
almost
the
lost to
division
the
game.
Texans 30-24. They won that
I got
game.
nothing for the
So-
Texans, but like you said, because you wanted to use that as an excuse
That's what I'm
before,
saying.
that
Well,
was a division game.
Exactly. So it counts. That's what I'm saying to you. But the Texans one is quizzical. 30
But here's the
24.
thing.
And that's because guys don't come motivated to play the shitty teams. They don't.
I get it, but there's a couple things here. One, they finished. You know who didn't? The Eagles. The
Fair
Eagles
enough.
did get beat by the Saints.
But they
That's the
finished
first
because
thing.
they had Patrick Mahomes. If the Eagles had the Jalen Hurts, they'd have beat the Saints. It wouldn't have been a question.
Yeah, but there's no reason that the defense should have allowed 20 points from a non-offense. The thing that was strong about New Orleans, to be honest with you, was their defense, because all of their offense just died. First, you lost Jameis Winston. You kind of put in Dalton, but then he got hurt for a little bit. So then
You are hanging on to the Saints game, aren't you, man? This is like a big deal to you in this situation.
Only because
Okay.
there's two reasons. The
Okay.
first is, if we're going to look and try and see where the weaknesses lie for these teams as they go into the biggest game of the year, we got to look at the fact that, yes, you did not have Jalen Hurts. However, what was going on with your defense? Because your defense was really supposed to be the linchpin there. The defense was that Jalen Hurts was balling, but your defense was stripping balls away from people left and right and stopping folks from scoring. So that's why I'm looking at the one little thing that might be, because unless something happens to Jalen where like he falls out of his bunk bed and like breaks his leg, like he's gonna play the game. So Jalen Hurts in that offense isn't something to be concerned about right now. It's, why did the defense falter so hard against the Saints? That is the ultimate question.
Okay. I just think they overlooked them. I think they overlooked them. They weren't psyched up to play them, and it cost them. They got caught in a bit of a trap game, and it happens. And you were the one selling me on the Eagles all year. So
I was, and I still give them credit. There's
Okay.
two things. I already told you, I want them to fail. I want them to get so close and just fail miserably. And the whole city of Philly burns, not because the dumbasses that burn their city. No, because I know how they are. The city wouldn't burn because, they're out here in these streets being like, hey, we won, because they burn their city when they win for some reason. But they would probably do it if they lose. And if anything, I almost don't want it to happen now. I take that back. And I'm not talking about the city burning thing, about them losing, because I already know how they racist ass is going to be too. Like, after he done had a great fucking season for your ass. Look, man,
there are no
I am
racists
literally
in Dallas.
just
I'm confused.
Huh?
I'm confused. There are no racists in Dallas. I'm confused.
I didn't say there weren't. I didn't say there weren't at all. That's not what we're talking about right now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's not what we are not talking about. Dallas. You can leave Dallas's name out your mouth. Keep my city's name out your fucking mouth. Whack. Like, just
you can't host next year. If you can't, if you're gonna go after a fan base, you gotta be fair. All the fan bases have that
I know.
unfortunate
I
quotation in them. So
no, I agree.
I was born in Philly, so for me, I don't want that city.
Oh wow! So now you claim it Philly. So Washington couldn't get it done. So now you claim it Philly.
I'm not claiming Philly. I'm just saying I don't want the city to burn to the ground.
Last thing that I don't want it to burn to the ground. I just expect it, because when they won the Super Bowl last time, cars were flipped and shit was on fire. Like,
they're eating horse poop. Yeah, it was weird.
All I'm doing, literally all I'm doing at this particular point is I am genuinely top to bottom giving credit where credit is due for these teams and why they were the number one in both their conferences and why they've made it to the Super Bowl. But I'm looking at what their weaknesses are, because that is the thing that is going to determine the game. Period. Are we going to get the Eagles defense that we saw a majority of the season? Or are we going to get the Eagles defense in the stretch without Hurts? Like, is he really doing something in his motivation for them, even though he doesn't play on their side of the ball, that is energizing them? Is that just because you had the backup there and they just weren't feeling themselves then? So that's on that side. And for the Chiefs, they don't make a lot of mistakes. So it is purely health. If they are healthy, they have the advantage, but they are currently not healthy. So that's my take.
I don't trust their defense as much as I trust the Eagles defense. I just don't. And so I think I have a better feeling about the Eagles than I do the Chiefs. And the injuries make me even more secure about my feeling about taking the Eagles over the Chiefs for sure. Ed Haskell retweeted this and wanted me to put it up. Hey, what do you think there? They changed shirts at the end of the game there. Is that
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Oh my God. That would be fucking funny. That's funny.
Very funny. But yeah, either way, we'll see I'm excited though. It's going to be a great Super Bowl. I was worried that it was going to be Bengals 49ers again. So the fact that we're getting a new matchup here in the Chiefs and the Eagles, I think is fun. I think the brother situation is
you
fun.
mean the Chiefs 49ers?
What's that?
You said Bengals 49ers. The Bengals did not play the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
I said Bengals 49ers was going to bore me. I like that we're getting Chiefs Eagles. That's more exciting to me. Yeah,
okay.
The Kelsey Bowl, the Brothers Bowl, the Brothers Bowl. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. I'm here for the Andy Reid Bowl. There's going to be a lot to talk about and explore and stuff. And when that happens, it's going to be a fun game to watch from both these teams for sure. I want to see a barn burner, man. I want to see a 48-45 game. I really do. I want to see a fantastic offensive offensive firepower in this game. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the end result's going to be. We only have so much time with you, Winston. There's like 12 minutes left. So let's move on to a little bit of the Chargers hiring your former offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. I mean, Kellen Moore was let go like yesterday at 2:00. He's already got a new job, man. Do you think this was already in the works?
I mean, yeah, because if I remember, he and Dan Quinn were already interviewing. There was certain stuff where they weren't allowed to do full ones until they were done with the playoffs.
Right.
But they were already in talks with folks. So I'm not surprised by that. I think because you also have to remember they let him go, like you said, 24 hours ago. We've been out of the last Sunday. That's an entire week for him to have gone and had final talks with teams and be offered a job. And again, it was a mutual parting of ways. So we felt some type of way about the offense, and he clearly had earned his stock, and people wanted his services. So
yeah,
I'm a little bummed to see him go because I get more concerned about Dak than I do about Kellen Moore. But Dak has that monster contract; he's not going anywhere. Yeah. So unless you find someone to trade him with, you damn sure ain't cutting his ass. So you know what I'm saying. So but I am going to be more heartbroken if Dan Quinn leaves. I would not be surprised if he leaves and gets another head coaching job. I'm going to be devastated because our defense has not looked that good since before Wade Phillips became a head coach. When he was just our DC, we looked great. The minute he got promoted, the defense kind of went sideways. So I'm really, really hoping that Dan Quinn stays, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, look, I thought their defense played incredibly against the 49ers last week. Really just, I know they got raked over the coals. Dak got raked over the coals, but their defense played incredibly. I thought people were being unfair to the Cowboys last week. That was a hell of a game. And they, again, real close to winning that game. Just that kiddo catch made the difference in the long run here. Let's move on to LeBron's situation here. Winston, this came out as well that the referees apologized. I rarely hear NBA referees apologize in season, but they apologized and were apparently sick to their stomachs. Hell of a thing for them to be quoted as saying over this missed call on LeBron in this tight game against the Celtics. Clearly,
that is so bad.
But
that's egregious, bro.
It's egregious. So you tell me, why are they sick to their stomach? They miss calls like this all the time in games. Is it because it's LeBron? Is it because it was a tight game? Is it because it's the Celtics, who's number one in the East right now? Why are they having these feelings?
It's because it is the biggest rivalry in sports outside of the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yes.
It's because it is the biggest stars in this sport. I mean, obviously you could throw Steph Curry, but Tatum and those Celtics just came out of the NBA finals, and LeBron is LeBron. Right. It's because it was so egregious and it genuinely changed the outcourse of the game.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. Now, mind you, people will always make the argument, okay, I mean, you had all this other time in the game to play, but when people say that, there is some truth to that. I'm not taking away from that. However, you are still talking. There's a reason why with football and with basketball too, they say any given Sunday, because you're still talking about the best in the world. It is hard to win an NBA game, regular season or postseason. And so for the Lakers, who have not been very good this season, to be giving it to the Celtics the way they were and to be that tight.
Yeah.
And that should have, that wasn't, if they had made that call, it doesn't guarantee that the Lakers win, but LeBron has to go to the line now. And for that to not be a thing, if LeBron had then gone to the line and missed those free throws, we're having a very different conversation. Ain't nothing to blame, but that was egregiously bad.
Yeah, it was interesting too because LeBron let something slip out. Well, Anthony Davis said we got cheated tonight. It's unacceptable. But then to hear Lakers complaining about the refs is something I what am I in bizarro world? But anyway, LeBron said that Saturday's game marked this, according to ESPN, at least the fourth time in recent weeks that the Lakers believe the late game call went against them in what became a loss. LeBron James said, "I don't see it happening to nobody else. It's just weird." That's his way of telling the refs and the NBA that he thinks the fix is in against the Lakers and y'all need to rectify this shit. So using his power, using his clout, LeBron is still one of the biggest players in the game. So very interesting situation here. And these Lakers are struggling to even remotely be in playoff
shit that
contention.
kills me. I forgot about this. I forgot that Patrick Beverley took a photographer's camera and walked that shit over.
Man.
Hold on, I have the video here. If you want,
Okay.
I'll share the screen.
I'll bring it
on.
up.
I'm dead, bro.
That was
I
genius,
completely forgot that he did this, and I do not blame him for doing that.
Standard Patrick Beverly.
Here we go.
Yeah, standard Patrick Beverly.
All right, so here's the play. Clearly hits his arm.
Right there, yeah.
And he's screaming for it, and everybody's like, dude, are you fucking kidding me right now? What is happening? What is happening? And Patrick Beverly went and got the camera and said, fam, I need you to look at this. He got it in 4K, bro. It's right here.
Get out of my face with
right
that
here.
shit.
Oh, he teched him up for that shit?
Of course he did, yes. You can't be trying to show up the ref.
Nah, man, that's bullshit. If I tell my mama, if I'm like, mama, I got proof that shit wasn't me. If I get a extra ass whooping for showing, look, I know I'm not supposed to correct you, but I have video proof that you wrong on this case. Like, damn, that tech was 1,000% a black dad being like, you know what you're not about to do to me, boy? Get the fuck up out of here with this. Tech your ass up. Get out of my face. Like,
I think he did it with the middle finger too. It's kind of a subtle shot.
Hey, get out of here, motherfucker.
Patrick's like, I got the evidence. There's a Zapruder film, man. Take a look. Get out of here with that shit. So yeah, genius stuff there overall. But you know what? It adds, as you said, to one of the greatest rivalries in sports. And who knows? The NBA is crazy. You never know. If LeBron and the Lakers make a couple of more moves, I mean, I think the Hachimura move is nice for them. If they make a couple more moves, and there are rumors they might be making these moves, they could be back in contention real quick. And we could see the Celtics versus the Lakers again in the finals. And certainly that'll be an issue that'll come up in conversation. I want to end the show with one last thing here, and that's to report the sad passing of Bobby Hull. For those of you who are hockey players, or hockey fans, you know that name, Bobby Hull. He died today at 84 years old. He's widely considered to be one of the greatest players in NHL history. He won the Hart Trophy twice, 3 scoring titles, and he is considered also to be one of the greatest Chicago Blackhawks players ever. He started kind of blowing up in his 3rd season when he scored 39 goals, got 81 points, then lifted the Stanley Cup the next season, then notched 610 goals, 1,170 points in over 1,000 plus games in the NHL. And he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1983. He was known as the Golden Jet, and he played for years in the NHL, and then jumped into different places to play as well to keep the career going. So just, and there are some stuff that happened with him as well behind the scenes that I think you can't ignore. Some issues that went on with some domestic assaults type of stuff, and also some weird shit with the Nazis in a Russian newspaper in 1998. Which
what?
Weird. So yeah, just some strange stuff. But his son, Brett Hull, went on to be one of the legendary NHL players as well, who went on to score 741 goals in the NHL. They are the only father and son combo to have both won the Hart Trophy as players in the NHL. So, with the complicated stuff aside, the man was a legend in the game. Got to offer respect. 84 years old, he's gone. So
you hate to see it, man. Rest in peace, and condolences to his family. And there was also an actress who passed.
Yes, from Star Trek. Yes,
I believe her name is Annie. Hold on, I'm so
Annie
sorry.
Wirsch, I think is who you're thinking.
Yeah, Wirsching.
Yes.
I was a big fan. I got introduced to her in 24. She played Renee Walker in 24, but she was in Star Trek Picard. And the other thing I think that was so interesting is that she's on one of my favorite shows, The Rookie. She played Rosalind Dwyer, the serial killer. And I was wondering why they needed to potentially like kill her character off in the rookie, and it sounds like she had been hardcore in this battle with cancer.
Yeah.
And so they had kind of written her off so that she could really try and focus on this. She was also one of the main voices in the video game The Last of Us. So it sounds like they were even, so they dedicated this last episode to her as well, man. So it's great because she was 45. I'm not saying that it's not sad for the homie you just said. What's his name? I'm so sorry.
Bobby Hull.
Bobby Hull. It's sad when anybody goes, but at least he was like in his 80s and whatnot. Like to see someone go that young is oh god, it messes with you.
Yeah, so it's true. It's truly heartbreaking for sure. And I mean, but if as someone who's had a parent die of cancer, you hope she's at peace now. Her spirit's at peace, because that is a painful way to go. But you're absolutely right, to lose someone so talented at such a young age, who had been part of numerous franchises and made her name in numerous franchises. It's sad to see to hear about her passing. And the original actress who played Wednesday Addams also passed yesterday.
Oh no,
62 years old, I believe. So sad to lose her right when we've gotten a revival for her character through Christina Ricci, not Christina Ricci in the past, but also Jenna Ortega now currently in that series that's on Netflix. So passing's always tough, but it's a fact of life. And as you get older, those are the things you start to kind of accept in our world. But it's always sad to see them go, but you want to honor them and their legacy and their time here on the planet for sure. All right, Winston, and thank you so much. Yeah, Lisa Loring, that's her name. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Game Time. We appreciate it madly. Always fun to see the vibrant chat and the back and forths going on there. Those of you who are fans of your teams, those of you who want to defend your teams, absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate it madly. Winston, another fun show. Where can they find you, my man?
Absolutely. You can find me at all the places that you would find somebody on social media. So, it's the swaggy blurred across the board, man. But dude, my Southwest TikTok apparently has gone pseudo viral. It's at like 60,000 views or some shit. Wow. Me just talking about how they just let an extra dude on the plane. So go figure. But I do a lot of fun comedy stuff over there, and then my YouTube channel as well. And I've got I'll be doing a review of Bel Air when it drops next month. We're doing a rewatch recap kind of discussion next month with Matt Thomas. And then we'll be doing the weekly reviews on that. And then obviously Capes and Cows over on Christian's channel.
Right on. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We covered Bel Air for the Hollywood Critics Association. I like that first season, and I went to college with Cassandra Freeman, so I'm a big fan of her and getting more and more exposure and more work. She's such a fantastic actress, so I'm looking forward to the second season as well. And yes, you're right, Salvation. Only Rocha never dies. He is immortal. That's absolutely true. I shall live on past all you motherfuckers. I've been around for a while. All right, anyway, as for me, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. We just dropped our spoiler review for episode 3 from last night of The Last of Us on the Geek Buddies. It's on the Outlaw Nation channel. We finished wiping our tears off to be able to record a review for an hour there. So go and watch that. Later, I'll have my review for Poker Face up as well. Fantastic new show on Peacock with Natasha Leon. Look for that on the Outlaw Nation channel. But here, subscribe here now. Trying to get that 1,000 subscribers here. Game Time. Get us to 1,000 here so we can monetize this channel. We really would appreciate it. But all right, you all take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great rest of your week. We will have a show next week, maybe previewing the Super Bowl and talking about other sports stories. And then, of course, we'll be back then Monday after the Super Bowl to have a fun conversation about what happened. Who knows? Maybe Winston and Sean Brennan are right, or maybe I'm right. We'll find out. Take care of yourselves. Be well. We'll talk to you then. Peace.